The 13th of April 2012 was the release date of FATS, a fantastic game that is inspired and makes homage to classic games, in particular Nintendo ones. And yet when its eccentric developer Phil Fish was asked what was his opinion on modern Japanese games, this is what happened.
Recent. I'm sorry.
They suck. I'm sorry, like you guys need to get with the times and make better interfaces and like update your technology. We're totally kicking your ass. Back then you guys were the king of the world, but your time has passed.
This led to an unpleasant response, with people even accusing him of racism, but what he expressed was a diffused sentiment amongst all Western developers. The video game industry was not at its best in that moment. Western games were lacking innovation, and there was a spreaded idea that innovating too much was actually the wrong direction. Japanese developers in all of these were not providing any help, as they were pushing hard on the same cliches. Now, somebody in Japan probably heard Phil, because in the coming years the quality of Japanese games raised tremendously, by simultaneously looking back at what was good about video games in the past and what was bad. Personally, I think that the best ideas clashed together in Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that single-handedly redefined what modern games should aim at. It doesn't matter what kind of games you are developing, there is something that can be adapted from the latest Zelda, a game that imposed no limitation while empowering the player with total freedom, and that is just the fundamental of the game over what an incredible experience is built upon. But what is fascinating about Zelda is that it is the state of the art in most of the things it does correctly, but is disgracefully bad at what it does wrong. The one thing that Zelda holds up is the inability of Japanese games developers to create interfaces and tutorials, in particular to the eyes of Western developers. It's in this aspect that Japanese developers show their different interpretation of video games. It all started by developing games in culture that are so far apart. Interfaces may look like a secondary thing, but it's the primary way to communicate information and explain the game to the player.
And Japanese games feel like it's illegal to ever let the player do anything that has not explicitly been shown to the player in painstaking detail earlier in the game.
With every culture comes a different way to express any art form. Japan has its own interpretation of food, its own idea of cinema. They went in a completely different direction with comic books, and there is no difference with video games. This different paradigm on developing games goes deeply in their roots. Whoever played enough games is able to identify easily the cultural origin of a game. As soon as video games were a thing, those differences were obvious to everybody. It's so strong in role-playing games that Japanese ones became their own genre with JRPGs. I don't want to be misunderstood like it happened with Phil Fish. I love that these differences exist, and to me, and whoever shares similar video game culture with me, these are obvious mistakes, but if the priorities are not in the same place, what is important to me may not be important for somebody else. The curious thing about it is that all of these problems in Japanese games, in particular with the interfaces of the games, have known and applied solution, and have come to the conclusion that these are nuances of a different culture of game development. But I also come to the realization that the important question here is, why? If the game is bad, one can expect the whole package to be bad, but if they are able to make such good games, why they keep making these mistakes? I don't believe they are not aware of them. They design games in this way because the developer thinks it's the right way to go. Weirdly enough, a possible answer to the question unexpectedly passed through my mind, and even if for me it was just a joke in the beginning, I kept thinking about it, and the more I was thinking about it, the more true became to me. So much that now I'm going to try to explain it to you, so keep in mind that 99% of what I'm going to say is just speculation, mumbling of a crazy person lost in a convoluted mind trick. It's up to you to find the remaining 1%, that maybe it's true. In the past years, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to visit both Korea and Japan for a total of something more than a month. All of this time with a fantastic guide that not only was able to lead me through these fantastic plays, but also explaining everything to me. What's okay to do, what's not okay to do, what people were talking about, and how to talk a little bit myself, both in Korean and Japanese. Learning about these languages was revealing way more about this culture than what I could have ever imagined. We all know that in Asian countries, the respect for the elders is crucial, more so than in Western countries. The English language has some simple form of Sir, Mr, Mrs. My native language, Italian, have a specific syntactic form that partially modify the way you talk to elders. But both Korean and Japanese have specific words dedicated to talk to elders, and another version that is more friendly. To somebody it's not accustomed to these languages, it's basically like talking a different language completely, depending on who you're talking to. With a version for friends, one for parents, one for the king, one for talking in public, one for business occasion, and many others. This is a consequence at the same time a cause of an extreme politeness that you can expect both in Korea and Japan. A form of politeness and respect that they show even if you're just a customer in a shop. Going back to Italy, for a couple of days everybody sounded rude to me. Even video games were somehow rude. And that is when the sparkle of madness lighted in my brain with the answer to my question. Is it possible that Japanese games are trying to be polite with the players? In a culture so polite, especially in public occasions, a game represents the work of hundreds, and when this group of people have to communicate to the player in the game and through the game, they will try to do so as politely as possible. Maybe again they do not explain things correctly to the player, may be seen as rude and lacking of respect for the player. Secrets are welcome, but only if they come with hints for the player on where to find them. If there is something that the player should know, let's have an unskippable message to tell him whatever we need. By analyzing Japanese games and their interfaces under this lens, many decisions start to make sense. Japanese games prioritize the understanding of everything that is going on in the game, even if that means interfering, slowing, or ruining the game. Western developers prioritize usability and efficiency, even if that means removing options to the player. The interface should help the player in the most efficient way possible, and time is an efficiency factor. That's why Western developers can get along this interface full of windows and stuff to click. The Japanese developer is willing to ruin a nearly perfect interface just to politely write a giant message telling you that the sword is going to break soon, while the Western developer will just shut up, keep the nice interface and let you despair when the damage happens. I will just add that the mentally sane developer will not make a sword last 20 hits in the first place. I share with you my crazy theory, mostly to have fun, but I guess that the true point of this video is to exercise some reverse engineering to understand what is going on with these games. Game development is not a science, and I bet that somewhere in Japan someone is doing a similar video complaining about Western games. If you have any crazy idea of your own about this topic, feel free to share. Thank you for watching.
But I think the Zelda comparison is really good. If you look at the first Zelda and the latest Zelda, the first Zelda it just drops you into that world, and it's a completely open, non-linear world, and it's dangerous and it's hard, and you have to like learn from your mistakes and figure things out. And there are these secrets, and the secrets are not obvious at all, which makes them secret and interesting. And then you play the latest Zelda, and it's the most like, it's just a straight corridor. It's just holding your hand the whole time. All the secrets have like an arrow pointing at them. It's just like, you can break this wall with a bomb because there's a little crack, and there's all the surprise and magic and like danger and mystery is just gone completely because of this obsession with like tutorials and making sure that the player knows about everything. Like it kills it for me.